I went to the Baptist orphanage in Suhum. Before that, I had gone to a rehab center. And I am looking to do a quick interview with the gentleman I met there. He's not yet here, but it was a very great experience for me. A house, ordinary house, and you meet like 30 people, and they are all going through various stages of drug rehabilitation, all kinds of substances.
Oh.
And the way he does it is, there's a physical, medical part, there's the emotional, mental part, there's also a spiritual part, there's a conversation. So it was incredible. When they have a football pitch, a basketball park, I mean, and I thought it was quite intense for somebody who himself was involved in drug addiction to recover and to now help others. And his point is that a lot of the people who come through the program, when they finish, they also help other people. Yeah. So it's quite an intense program, 6 months, a year. It's immersive.
I'm interested in
I was blown away
about this because
I was blown away.
I've always been worried by what I feel is the lack of rehab facilities. And by rehab I don't mean lock the person behind bars, kind of, because Ghana, when they say you're going to rehab you,
you'll tie you to a tree.
Sometimes it ends up being a bit dehumanizing. But places where the person goes and is able to relax the mind and is taken through processes where he can get proper help, and after that know that this has been a productive use of my time, and walks away from that aspect of his or her life. So to hear you talk about this person, I'm very interested in hearing more about this facility and what the kind of people.
And one of the things he said, which I liked, was I said the families are involved. Usually people just go and dump the victim or the person at a place and go home. His point was that you can never really recover if your family is not involved in the process. So there's a process that involves even your immediate family members, where they are also taken through certain counseling procedures. They do some courses, they give you material to read, and then they do like regular check-ins. I thought it was really fascinating to hear the story and to see people actually going through the program voluntarily, and to see people who had gone through the program basically living or getting their lives back. Because in Ghana, usually certain conditions are a sentence to death, condemnation, basically just leave you. This society doesn't really do well with rehabilitation or recovery.
Yes.
Once something happens to you, it's an anathema, so they leave you. So I was quite impressed that the thing is working. And what also impressed was he wasn't making a lot of noise about it. This is the other thing. In Ghana,
but he shouldn't.
That's the thing. We like talking a lot. And so even if you're bringing him on air, I had to sort of discuss it with my boss to say, okay, is this a good idea? But I feel like sometimes we need to hear that there are ways in which things can be done. Because if you only put the negative out, how can people know that there's a way out? Okay. Yeah. But I like the fact that they are also understated, that they are not every day trumpeting what they do. Yeah. Because in Ghana, there's a certain, I don't even say it's in Ghana, it's the sign of the times. These days, people are very interested in being in the news for whatever reason, even for very, very minimal accomplishments. And I feel like that's very, maybe it's part of our psyche these days, where somebody does the barest minimum and is already on social media celebrating himself.
Yeah, but I think
we over-celebrate.
Yeah, the work that is done in that space is not something that should open itself to publicity, and bringing in the general public and that sort of thing. Because the people who go there, they go there not to be judged. We judge a lot.
100%.
So even if you see the person standing at the gate of the place and they say, "Hey, Mr. Bernard, now baby,
the guy said he doesn't even have a signboard.
Yeah, but he doesn't need to.
Because once you say this is the place,
hey, problem.
Yeah.
And in most communities, if anything goes wrong, they'll come and say, "Hey, it's the people, the people from here that we suspect."
We are not able to differentiate between advising people about the dangers of something versus stigmatizing victims or people who are in the process. You get it? So like you are warning young kids, actually, when you go to school, don't go and smoke weed. You end up in a certain way, which is good advice. But then there's a difference between helping somebody by warning them of the consequence of their action versus now stigmatizing people who are now trying to recover from the process. I think we need to draw that fine line.
Yeah, Bernard, well, I identify with all the things that you said. Let me just basically caution all the kids out there. that these days I spend a lot of time talking to, people aspiring to all kinds of professions, guiding them and all of that. And one thing I keep picking up, it's the increasing use of drugs among many of the youthful people we do have. And
hard drugs.
And I mean, they tell me that in many of the social gatherings they have on university campuses or outside university campuses or even in their halls of residence, all kinds of substances are infused, or the things they eat or drink are laced with all kinds of drugs. And you heard this, epidemic about red and all the things that we're hearing about. Look, parents try as much as possible to caution their kids as to what they should do and what they should not do. But sometimes peers, friends, and all kinds of people influence them to go into things. Please, if you're out there, be mindful of what you are eating or what you're drinking.
Because they can lace it,
Because they can lace it with something. If you are out there, you are drinking something, you are sure of what you're drinking, never leave what you're drinking to attend to someone, to attend to somebody, or to attend to any other thing, and come back to what you're drinking so you could consume it. It will either kill you or it will expose you to something that you should not be taking. Don't experiment it. Some people say, let me experiment it and know what I can do. I met a young girl who was telling me that, I just wanted to experiment. My friend told me that, you try it.
Hey.
And that was how she became hooked.
Oh, Lord.
So I beg you out there, please, 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 it is not the way to go. It will wreck your life. Please. And our parents, it will be very, very important that we should start digging. I know that many of these young ones growing these days, they say, Daddy, please, you are invading my privacy.
Yeah.
Why are you looking into my things and all of that? It is important that you start digging into their bags, their backpacks, and the things that they carry in and out.
Yeah.
Many of these young ones are carrying all kinds of substances, Bernard. You see some small blue-looking drug.
Yeah.
And these are the things they are consuming.
And the other thing is that
out there.
when you go to somebody's house, be careful what you take in their fridge or their kitchen, because some people put things in their fridge that you don't know.
Yes.
And you just drink that thing and there's something in it.
Exactly.
So I think this campaign you've started is good. We need to push it. It's a very important conversation. What worries me is that even now, people much younger. So in the past, we used to think, post-secondary, university. Now, Charlie, if you are even 14, 15, 16, you don't take care, Charlie,
right.
I think will catch you. So it's a serious situation. It's a serious situation.
And the result is that sometimes they are exposed to other social vices. Like, for instance, they go to these events, they drink these things, then boys with funny ideas start abusing them and all of that. So it is important that university authorities would have to up their game in terms of where they are going to ensure that people are doing the right things. In the secondary schools, the house masters or the hall masters also have a duty. The prefects also have a responsibility to ensure that they watch what the students are doing.
The house masters are outnumbered. They are outnumbered, which is why we are saying there should be more supervision on campuses, because sometimes, you cannot stay with the kids 24/7. When you put young people together in a dormitory, there's only so much you can do. You get it? So if they don't have enough teachers on duty who move regularly, which is why this boarding house thing has to be looked at very carefully, because you have a boarding house of 3,000 students. Charlie, you have 35 teachers, only 12 on campus. How are you going to manage 3,000 students? Young, vibrant 17, 15, 16-year-olds. It's going to be tough. I think we need to rethink even the whole boarding school, because as you sit here now, if you send your daughter to a school, you're not really sure, And now, because of the confused timetable, we don't even know where they are, how much time they are in school. It's a lot of things, And what we've done is that we've created a middle-class society which is moved out of the public schools. So you can afford to send them to a very posh school. Maybe they have a few students there, and then you are in good contact with the teachers. But the majority of the population, they go to regular schools with a lot of people. Now, it's not just drugs. People are being lured into all kinds of things. Let's travel outside Ghana. Let's look. If you watch, and this is not just a Ghana situation. You watch television. They speak to a British teenager who went to join some insurgent group, and so her friends spoke to her. And the other thing is that people are also influenced and radicalized online. you see, we tend to think that this is just a question of people talking to you, peer pressure. I think the biggest danger for the generation of our kids is what they're exposed to online. Because, Kai, I've tried to put a system in place in my house where if the child goes on a certain website, it gives me an alert. It's very difficult because some of the games don't go through that system. And sometimes when they try to go to the site and they send the thing to you on air, you can't pick it. It's a complicated situation. Okay. And the kids too, they want to play. Now, if you are not in the space of what your kids are watching, and you are not scrutinizing it, Charlie, they have all sorts of funny ideas which could lead them in all kinds of places. So I think the responsibility begins with home, and this is what tends to happen. When people get affluent, the danger is different because there's internet at home. So the child can get wrong exposure to all these things online. In the same way, if the child is from a very poor home and the parents are out to work, he's home with other people, he can stray into other areas. So it's agnostic to income levels. A poor child can be influenced by peers. A very wealthy child can be influenced online, and it's the same thing.
Someone who is living so many millions.
So your financial situation is not even the issue. I think parents must take responsibility to be the anchor at home, to be the voice your child can listen to, and to speak to them regularly. Because there are so many bad people online who can tell your kids all kinds of things. And Charlie, before you know, you've lost your child, you know. And some of them, when they tell you how they got into the things they got into, you'll be surprised. I was lonely. Nobody was talking to me. Nobody understands me. So I went online and somebody came and said to me that I should do this, that. He was my friend. Before you know, your child is doing crazy things. So yes, Sky, thank you for raising this.
I want to mention something specifically about the radicalization, just a short one.
Yes.
They tend to target people who they seem are lonely, like you're on a chat room, you don't have friends, so they
Yes.
become your friend.
Yes.
They're messaging you every day, they are checking on you.
Yes.
By the time you know, because you are lonely, they are your friend.
And they use that to enter.
And then once they're your friend, they start suggesting certain things like, oh, this. And by the time if you remember, there was a famous case of this girl who ended up joining ISIS.
Yeah.
She even had children and the whole thing, and she lost her British citizenship.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I started that.
Yeah.
Oh,
She was lonely.
I don't have friends. This. So yeah, it's very scary actually.
And I actually think one of these days I need to put on air some psychologists to explain to us signs to look out for in, we assume that certain behaviors are normal, but there are certain things people start saying that lets you know that no, this is a red flag. If you see this, you need to be careful. You need to ask certain questions. And a lot of this happens when parents and duty bearers and caregivers are not alert and they miss all the signs. Usually when something terrible happens, then the person will say, oh, Charlie, when this person kept telling me this, I should have listened. Do you follow me? So we need to develop senses of listening to young people to know what they're actually saying so that we can intervene before it becomes too late. Because for every good thing you want to tell your child, there are 3 or 4 people who want to tell them something bad online. So let's be careful. I have 2 gentlemen in front of me. Alan Menz is the manager of a very interesting rehabilitation center called Iris Place. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bernard.
Please move closer to the mic. And I also have Walter Damien. Did I get that right? Damien, who's an internationally certified addiction professional. Mercy. That's like wild position. So, Alan, let's talk. How long have you been involved in substance usage? How did you recover? And how did you get into starting a rehabilitation center? All in 2 minutes.
Wow. Thank you very much, Bernard. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah.
My name is Alan, and I'm a person in recovery.
Okay.
My sobriety date is 6th May 2017.
All right.
And I'd like to make a deep and personal commitment not to use any mind or mood altering substance just for today.
Wow.
This is what I say to myself every morning since the date I've given you. And we are never cured of addiction. What we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
Wow.
Iris Place started in 2019, October.
All right.
And so for 6 years now, I have seen a couple of clients come in and leave. And then for me, it's a passion as a person in recovery, because the more I reach out to help others achieve recovery, the better I also sustain and maintain my own personal recovery. So for me, it's a passion, because our literature tells us that the therapeutic value of an addict helping another is without parallel.
So you are the best person for this.
Yes.
Pardon me to ask how long you had been involved in substance usage.
About 33 years.
33 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been tough.
Yes, it's very tough. Actually, I hit rock bottom, and I had no option than to seek
Help.
change. Yeah.
And you've gotten so much help that you are helping other people.
Yes.
And then this is your 8th year.
Yes.
Are you able to tell us how you got into it? I think it's important for listeners to know,
Yeah,
just briefly,
it's
to the extent that we have the time.
Curiosity, peer pressure.
You were young.
Yes, I was young, and I was brought up by a strict disciplinarian. I was brought up with the Bible and the cane.
The irony.
Yes, so I always
the Bible and the cane.
Yes.
And yet you found your way into.
Yeah.
What do you think parents are missing about this that your story teaches us? Because the Bible and the cane were in the house, which is what I was also brought up. Yet you're saying it's possible for that to be there, and yet a child can still go off into wrong advice and that type of thing. So is it more the way that, I don't know, it's not by force, right? You need to have a more a better way of reaching your young person than using threats.
Yeah, I believe that I don't fault my parents, but I think parents should go that extra mile of getting to know the emotional aspect of their kids. Yeah, and should take their kids
it's very
as their
important
best friends so that they could also open up and share.
I'll stay with you. We'll come to Walter. How did you get help? Who helped you, and how did you get here?
Wow. So when I hit rock bottom, I had to tell my sister, my big sister, that I want to stop. She didn't believe me because we've had occasions to discuss my addiction. But I told her, in fact, there are times I had shed tears, but they were crocodile tears.
So
but this time around, I shared real tears. And
Okay.
she knew I was really ready and serious. So
Okay.
yeah, I checked into a treatment facility run by the Catholic Church at House of St. Francis, at Tashama, Middle East.
Okay.
I stayed in treatment for 2 years, 3 months. Because, like I said, I developed passion for the whole thing when I got in there. For me, it was an eureka moment when I got to recovery.
Wow.
And by my end of my first year, I had a scholarship to study addiction management.
Wow.
Because of
Your recovery was that fast. They were like, no, this guy is good.
Yes. So
Oh, wow.
God did for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a rehab center run by the Catholics.
Yes.
And what process were they using?
The 12-step recovery model, which I also use at
The
Iris.
12-step recovery model.
Model,
Do you care to share some highlights of that?
The 12-step recovery model, first of all, will help a client to stop using so that you don't experience what we call the physical allergy,
Okay.
lose the desire to use, that deals with the mental obsession, and then find a new way of life.
Wow.
Yeah, so the 12-step model can be likened to, let's say, any information that comes with a gadget.
Okay.
So the 12-step model actually is for everybody, everybody, but specifically for those of us suffering from substance use disorder. Yeah, because the problem of the addict is a problem of living with himself, with others, and then with God. So it is a spiritual program.
Amazing. Yourself, others, and God.
Yeah.
And then you said it's medical, and it's also mental, and then it's also spiritual.
Yes.
That's I like the way you break things down so easily. Walter, how did you get involved in this? Because apparently you were part of the people that helped Alan.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Because you look younger than he is.
Yes. So it's the age doesn't matter. It's a whole network.
Okay.
So we have a whole recovery community in Ghana.
Okay.
Where those of us who have suffered one way or the other from substance use and are now doing well, we provide that peer support to people who genuinely and really want to come out of that predicament. Everything you need to stop doing drugs and become useful to yourself, your family, and society. We believe that as a community we have that for you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And so you yourself, before you got in to become a professional certified addiction helper,
Yes.
you were also under substance abuse.
Exactly.
For how long?
Exactly. I did drugs for 10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
So were you also helped at the same place that he got help?
Yes, I was.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So you went there
I went there first.
and you got your help, and then they sort of recruited you to
Help others, and that's how it's been going. So we've been around for about 12 years, and
wow. How important is it for a trainer or a professional to have gone through the process himself.
Yes.
It makes it easier, I guess.
Exactly. So you know, everybody else can have sympathy, but you have what we call empathy because you have been there before. You know, so what the police, the doctors, family members, what they are doing is they are advising, but
They don't know. They don't know what you are going through.
I don't advise. So usually when they are advising, at the back of the person's mind, he's saying, you don't really understand how I feel. But if somebody like myself is talking to them, they go like, this is the one who is speaking my language. This is the one who understands how I feel. Like he was saying, he mentioned the 12 steps. So just a brief, something brief on it. There's something we call a 12-step call. So when I go to this person, I'm telling them my story. I'm not even talking about them because before I get to them, I might have heard a lot of terrible things about them, but I won't go and talk to them about them. I'll be talking about myself. So I'm telling them what I went through, what I did, and all that several years ago, and they're like, this is exactly what is happening to me now.
Wow.
And at some point they are wondering, so you don't look like it anymore. What happened? Sometimes they ask you directly. Sometimes you can tell from their demeanor that this is what they are asking. That is where you get them where you want them to be, and you offer or you sell the help to
So
them.
that empathy is critical for the connection, because it's also trust.
Yes.
That if the guy who's helping me, I trust them, then I can work with them through the process.
Exactly.
Amazing. And you've been a certified professional for how long?
For 8 years now.
8 years.
Yes.
It seems to me like a sacrificial job, because when I came to your center yesterday, the thing is very professional and yet it's very relaxed. You know what I'm saying? So you know, usually when you say, when people want to do something professional, it looks very wild.
Exactly.
But it was like a normal place,
Yeah.
talking normal people,
Yeah.
and yet wild things are happening.
Yes, because for me, I learned from right from the basics that I don't have to be bossy over. We call them clients. You don't have to be bossy over the clients. They should see you as a partner on their recovery journey. So with what Walter said, let me just chip in this. So they brought in a client and he was not willing. So the house manager within the house of friends asked the mother to excuse that is the house manager and the son, and then called me in and he said, Alan ABCDB, just engage this gentleman. I said, hello, how are you? And I had been briefed that he uses heroin. So I say, the heroin is, we chase it on a foil. And I said, oh, so do you do the wheelbarrow style or you take it from left to right? He said, how did you know that? Wow, mom, I'll stay, I'll do the program.
Just that.
That is that.
So the empathy is critical.
Yeah.
I also like the anonymity of the place, in the sense that, of course, I know the Catholic place and it's a great place to send people. Why did you decide to do a place so welcoming, so ordinary, without giving it too many fancy labels? I don't even hear of you on air. I've been forced you to come here to kind of talk. Why is that important?
So for us, for the fellowship of the 12 step, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions.
Anonymity is the
Yes. Ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Okay.
So what this means is that anybody you see at the center, anything you hear there, whatever goes on there, when you leave there, let it stay right there.
Wow.
Because without the basis of anonymity, you cannot handle issues like stigma. And then we understand our own language. We speak our own language. We hear the voices of our clients. And so we believe that when this anonymity is maintained, it helps a lot in growing.
I noticed, I didn't stay long enough to know, but it seems to me as if people share stories.
Yes.
And the way they were sitting, it suggests that there's openness. And that helps. They are willing to talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that's the backbone of the entire program. You say we share our experience, strength, and hope to keep going.
Our experience, our strength, and our hope to keep going.
Exactly. So, for example, when I got into contact with the people to feel this way about it, there is something here I must get. And that's how it got
So
started.
the critical nature of seeing other people go through what you've gone through is almost like at the basis of this.
Yes, that's the backbone of
Wow.
the entire program.
I'm sure somebody listening to me is like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what substance I have abused. Are you saying that this program has proven to work for all types of substances?
not only types of substances, but all types of addictions.
You're kidding me?
To gambling, to masturbation, to sex, to food, to TV, to social media, every.
So it's not even just a substance abuse situation. You are talking about all kinds of addictions. There's 12-step process works.
Yes.
And you accommodate all those people in your system.
Yes.
Must they all be boarders or they can be day students?
Well, it depends. It depends. As a professional, when you come in, we do what we call an assessment.
Okay.
It is that assessment that will inform or help us to plan a treatment for you. So we have an index we use. So
Okay.
After the assessment, we will grade you. If you fall under mild, you can fall under either mild, moderate, or severe. So that between moderate to severe is most likely you need to
You need body.
you need to be confined in a rehab. But when it is mild,
Yeah.
then we can say, okay, you be doing outpatient program,
OPD,
go
And come.
in
And they are happy to do it because of
can
the.
do it.
I notice also the cleanness of the place. I mean, again, pardon my prejudice, but of course, when you say you are going to a rehab center, the mindset is that the people there are unable to help themselves. But yesterday, I didn't see any of that. Very clean rooms, very civil conversation, football park, basketball pitch. It's almost like a whole community.
So we say cleanliness is next to godliness. So every morning there's inspection, like we're doing in the boarding school.
Back to Presec.
Yes, personal grooming, armpits,
Hey, you check all that?
We check all that. Because you see, the addict or the alcoholic has lost it with his personal grooming. So recovery is fine. The basis is abstinence, but other things go with abstinence. That this is the new way of life we are talking about. You need to lay your bed when you wake up. Personal grooming, everybody has some little chore to do. You need to clean your space. So that is the new way of life we are talking about.
You said there were 3 stages: the mild, the severe. I was going to ask if somebody has now started experimenting. Maybe there's a listener who has begun, and I'm not sure they can call it an addiction yet, or they do not even know if they're addicted yet, but they just feel like they like it.
Great.
At what point can somebody come to you?
Okay, that's good. So this would the stages of addiction would suffice. And you see, when we talk about the stages of addiction, which closely ties in with the level of severity of classification when you come in, is we talk about the quantity of use, how frequent you use it, and then how much or let's say what problems you have using the drug. So we look at these 3 things, so that for somebody who is able to use it, let's say once a week, once a month, once every 2 or 3 months, the whole of this year, somebody drank only yesterday because it was Easter celebration. This person may not have a problem, but for somebody who has a problem who did that, may be classified under mild.
I get it.
Right. So there are stages of addiction where we have the experimentation stage, and it runs through. So the addiction stage, also known as the dependency stage, is the last stage, that when you wake up, every second or minute of your life, you need to have the
You become
substance
obsessive.
in your
So
system.
this is when
Otherwise,
then
won't
you
function
start
normally.
looking for money to get it.
Exactly.
And you start telling stories that people, because your system now depends on it.
Exactly. You don't feel alive without it.
And you are saying both of you got to that stage, and still by the grace of God and through the help of the program,
Exactly.
you are on your journey of recovery. I notice you don't want to say you've recovered.
Yes. So ironically, Mr. Alan was saying something about hitting rock bottom, and it just occurred to me, so we hit rock until we hit rock bottom. I don't know if you understand what that means. So we're hitting rock, hitting the rock.
I get
That's
it.
how you using the rock is hitting the rock
Until you hit rock bottom.
When you hit rock bottom, it means you have gotten to your lowest level of life, where there's nothing left for you apart from to die.
Because it robs you of everything. Relationships, dignity,
Family, gone, community, education, work, nothing. You don't just have anything. You are just breathing air. You are just alive and breathing air.
and
That is where
even
we
from rock bottom, you are here helping.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So to the one that is just experimenting,
Yes.
let me just add to what Walter said. You see, when you look at the stages of addiction,
Yeah.
it's a thin line in between all the stages. And before you say Jack, you are flipped over to the other side. It is easy to graduate from experimentation and occasional use two circumstantial stage before you get to the dependent stage. So the one who has just started should even not move on, should start seeking for help.
I see. And I was asking which substances, because these days in the news there are new things young people are experimenting with, some of which do not even have a long track record in our literature. As in, of course, we know marijuana, we know heroin, cocaine and stuff, but if you listen to the news these days, there are all kinds of things that people are using. There's a new they call it the opioid they call it opioids.
Okay, it falls under the opioids with the classification of drugs.
Yes, and it's we're told that it's very popular among the young people. I don't know what you have to say to them before we talk about how people can get in touch with you. What do you say to people who are experimenting things that have not been documented yet?
Yes, so now there's a hullabaloo about a substance called red.
Yes.
A tablet called red.
Yes.
So this red is basically tramadol. It's a tramadol and the milligram is 225. Meanwhile, what Food and Drugs Board approves of is just 100. Just the highest is 100.
So guys are doing more than double.
So if they are doing 225, they are doing more than double that. And this 225, if somebody is addicted to it, they are not taking just one tablet. They are taking about 3 or 4 of them. So you can just imagine the dosage they are taking. That is why when they take it, they begin to have that funny feeling, that experience, that becoming like a zombie. You can even freeze in the middle of the road, a busy road, when you are crossing. That is what the substance will do to you. And basically it's an opioid. It's an opioid. It's a painkiller, basically. So that is what this red and tramadol is. Initially it was tramadol, tramol.
Now they've moved it to red.
It's just a new brand, red. 225.
Amazing. How do you get support for this? Because I see you are in a facility, very nice place. You feed people 3 times a day. Is the government giving you any money?
No.
So how do you get money to
the clients pay for
the treatment,
which is expensive. So family pay for their loved ones to be there. Occasionally, like you blessed us overwhelmingly yesterday, it's rare, but once in a while, we get donations from individual to support us, but everything is paid for. Yes.
And you live in the campus with your family?
Yes.
That's amazing. So I know you are not here to solicit for funds or anything, but I feel like you need to let people know how they can help if they want to, because I think you're doing a great job and you're supporting, because apart from the major government facilities, I don't think there's a lot of we don't know a lot about what people are doing privately, which is also very important. So are you able to share some website or some number or something for somebody who wants to support you?
So I can share my number. It's 0243 53 52 78.
Can you repeat it?
0243 53 52 78.
So if somebody wants to bring a client to your facility, they can call this number?
Yeah, they can call this number, or you go to Google Map, you Google Iris Place, Agbogba.
Iris Place.
Agbogba.
Okay. Now, how long is the average recovery process, or it depends?
Yes, it depends. 4 to 6 months or more. Some family members may ask for extension. And then over a period of time, we also take the client through assessment to determine if the person is really ready to do well out there.
Wow. We're speaking to Alan Men's manager, Iris Place, Walter Damien, who is an international certified addiction professional. All kinds of addictions they help to work with. I'll send the number again for those who are interested.